My name is Mayanka. I am accounts and a finance trainer from Uplatz. Today in this class we will discuss section 139A. Section 139A of the Income Tax Act. We are discussing the provisions which are relating to filing of return of income and self-assessment. So we will discuss section 139 subsection A, section 139A, permanent account number. What is the meaning of PAN and the requirement of PAN in the case of income tax return? We will discuss section 139A, permanent account number. Permanent account number PAN. There are the following reasons when the PAN is mandatory. Means there are the following persons who are mentioned in column 2 who has not been allotted a permanent account number to apply to AO within the time specified in column 3 for the allotment of PAN. Means if there is any person who wants to file his income tax return, then it is required to be registered at the income tax site. And to be registered at the income tax side, the assessee should have PAN. The assessee should have PAN. Permanent account number. Permanent account number should be there because the person will be registered by his permanent account number. By his permanent account number. So, in this case, for filing the return of income, the permanent account number is mandatory. Means at the income tax side, the person does not known by his name. He is known by his permanent account. By his permanent account number. So, for filing the income tax return and for making the payment of tax and for doing any work which is relating to the income tax, or if then the person is required a permanent account number. The person is required a permanent account number. Subsection 1 require the following person mentioned in column 2. In column 2, there are the following person who has not been allotted a permanent account number to apply to the AO within that time limit which is specified in column 3 for the allotment of PAN. So the point number 1 is person required to apply for PAN and the time limit for making such application. Now we will discuss who are required to apply for PAN and within the time period such person making the application for such PAN. Number 1, every person whose total income or the total income of any other person in the respect of which he is assessable under the income tax act during the previous year exceed the maximum amount which is not chargeable to tax. Means any of the person whose total income is more than basic exemption limit, it is more than basic exemption limit, then such person will apply for the PAN. Means if there is any person, for the example, there is a person, Mr. Sham, and his total income is 8,75,000. Then he is required to be registered at income tax site and he is required to file his income tax return. He is required to file his income tax return. So he is required for the PAN. He is required for the permanent account number because his total income is more than basic exemption limit, or his income is more than the amount which is not required to be taxable. So he is required to take a PAN and he will file the income tax return. He will file the income tax return. So the date on or before 31st March of the assessment year for which such income is assessable is that if such income is for the assessment year 2020 and 21 and 22, then he will file his return up to 31st July 2022. So he is required to take pen. He is required to take pen till 31st March 2022. He is on or before 31st May, sorry, 31st May of the assessment year for which such income is assessable. Means the assessment year is the assessment year will be 2022 and 23. This will be the assessment year. This will be the assessment year. So, Mr. Sham, he will file his income tax return up to 31st July 2022. So, the time limit for obtaining the PAN is on or before the 31st May. On or before the 31st May of the assessment year for which such income is accessible. For which such income is accessible. So, he is required to be take the PAN or make the application for the PAN till or up to 31st May 2022. He is required to make the application. He is required to make the application for obtaining the PAN up to 31st May 2022. 2022 when his total income, his taxable income is more than the basic exemption limit. It's more than the basic exemption limit that the assessee is required to obtain the PAN. Obtain the PAN. And for obtaining the PAN, the date is means he will obtain the PAN or he will make the application for PAN till 31st May. Till 31st May of the relevant assessment year. Of the relevant assessment year, he will make an application for the he will make an application. He will make an application for the such PAN for the such PAN. Number two, every person who is carrying any business or profession whose total turnover or the gross received are not likely to be exceed 5 lakh in the previous year. Means if there is any assessee whose turnover, whose gross received is not more than 5 lakh rupees in the previous year, is not more than is not more than 5 lakh rupees, then he will make an application for the PAN before the end of financial year. Means before the end of financial year, he will make an application for the PAN. For the example, there is a ABC Limited, and in ABC Limited, the amount of turnover for the example 3,75,000. Every person carrying any business or profession whose total sale, turnover, or gross receipts are not likely to exceed, are likely to exceed, it is more than 5 lakhs, just like 7 lakh 50,000. If it is more than 5 lakh rupees, then he will make the application for PAN till end of financial year, means till 31st March, till 31st March 2021. If it is a 20 and 21, then he is required to make an application. He is such ABC, it is required to make an application for the PAN till 31st March 2021. Till 31st March 2021, the application for the PAN is required to be made by the ABC. Number three, every person being a resident other than and resident which entered into the financial transaction of the amounting aggregate of 2,50,000 or more in a financial year. Means there is a resident. There is a person who is a resident of India other than the resident which entered into a financial transaction, and the value of the financial transaction is 2,50,000 rupees or more than 2,50,000 rupees in the financial year, then such person will make an application on or before the 31st May of immediate following financial year. Means the assessee will make an application for obtaining the PAN on or before 31st May. On or before 31st May. Next, every person who is the manager director, if there is any person who is the manager director, director of the company, partner of the company, trustee, author, founder, karta, chief executive director, principal officer, or any other bearer, or office bearer, or any other person which is referred, or any other person who is referred in a point third above, or any other person competent to act on the behalf of such person which is referred in point 3 above. Means if there is any person who is the managing director of the company, if there is any person who is the director, partner, author, karta, chief executive officer, principal officer, or the officer bearer of any person, or the officer bearer of any person, the person who is the resident of India, or any other person who is competent to act on the behalf of the person who is mentioned in point 3, then such person will make an application for obtaining the PAN on or before 31st May of immediate following financial year in which the person referred in third enters into financial transaction there specified therein. Means such person will make an application for obtaining the PAN on or before 31st May of the financial year. Means he will make the application before 31st May of the on or before 31st May of the following financial year, immediate following financial year in which the person referred in point 3 enters into the financial transaction. Just like there is a person, there is a Mr. Ram, and he is the director. He is the director of ABC Limited. He is the director of ABC Limited. Now, in the year 2020 and 21, Mr. Ram, he wants to, or his return, his amount of income is more than rupees, more than basic exemption limit, or he wants to file his income tax return, or he wants to file his income tax return. So, and he does not have PAN. So, up to 31st May means up to 31st May 2021, he will make an application. Mr. Ram will make an application for PAN up to 31st May. Up to 31st May 2021, Mr. Ram will make an application for the PAN. For the PAN. So these are the condition, these are the situation when the person is required for the PAN, and up to which date, and up to which date he will make an application, and up to which date the person will make an application for PAN. For PAN. Further, for widening the tax rules, every person who has not been allotted PAN or intend to enter into the transaction as specified by CBDT is required to be applied for the PAN to the AO. Means if there is any person who does not the PAN, who does not permanent account number, but such person wants to enter into the transaction which are mentioned, which are prescribed, which are specified by the CBDT, then such person is required to take and to apply for the PAN. Such person is required to take the PAN, apply to take the PAN. For the example, there is a person and such person is entered into a transaction on which the payment of TDS is required to be made. Payment of TDS is required to be made, or there is any person who is obtaining the salary and the employer is deducting the amount of salary. Then to claim the amount of TDS, such person is required to take PAN. Such person is required to take PAN. So in this situation, if there is any person who has entered or who want to be entered into any transaction, any activity which is prescribed by the CBDT or which is related to the income tax, then such person is required to make an application to the AO for the PAN. The central government is empowered to specify by the notification in the official gazette any person or the class of the person by whom tax is payable under this act, or any tax or duty is payable under any law for a time being in force. Means the central government has the power that the central government can specify by the official gazette by the notification in the official gazette any class of person or the classes of the person, any class of person or the classes of person by whom the tax is payable under the income tax act or under any other law for the time being in force. Such person are required to apply pen within the time limit as may be mentioned in such a notification. Means the central government can notify the particular class of the person or the person that they are required to take the permanent account number up to such a specific limit, up to such a specific limit. So these person who are specified in such a notification, they will take the pen, they will take the pen up to such a specific limit, the limit which is specified in such a notification, which is specified in such notification. For the purpose of collecting any information which is very useful and relevant to the purpose of this act, the central government may, by the notification, specify or notify the class and the classes of the person. For such person shall within the prescribed time apply for the PAN to the PO, to the assessing officer, AO, sorry. So, for the purpose of collecting any information, for the purpose of collecting any information which may be useful for the relevant for the purpose of this act, means if there is any requirement of the information which are very much useful or which are very much relevant for the purpose of this act, then the central government may by the notification, then the central government by the way of notification specify the class or the class of person, and these person they will make the application, they will make the application in the prescribed form, they will make the application to the AO in the prescribed form in the respect of allotment of such pen. And such application is required to be made by the such a persons within the specific time limit, that time limit which is specified by the government, the time limit which is specified by the government. The AO, having regard to the nature of transaction as may be specified or as may be prescribed, may also allot a pen to any other person in the manner and the accordance with the procedure as may prescribed. Means if there is any person, if there is any person who wants to make an application for the pen, then he will make an application to the AO, and the AO, having regarding to the nature of transaction as may be prescribed, he may also allot the pen, he may also allot the pen to the another person, to the another person. Means if there is any person who is required to make the payment of tax or not, but he wants to take the permanent account number one, such as I say, he wants to take the permanent account number, then he will make an application to the assessing officer, and the assessing officer will provide the PAN. The assessing officer will provide the PAN to such person. And any person, the person other than 0.1 to 0.4 ever, they may apply for the PAN to the assessing officer for the allotment of PAN, and the assessing officer shall allot a PAN to such person immediately. Means there are some other person who are not specified in point A2 in point 1 to point 4. Other than these person who are mentioned in point 1 to point 4 above, if they may apply, if these person may apply for the pen, then the AO will provide the pen to such person immediately, to such person immediately. Such pen comprise the 10 alphabetic number, alphabetic characters, sorry, the alphanumeric means the pen number will be just like there is a RAM, and the PAN number will be just like CGW, CGW ER 0878G, just like that. It is the 10 number, permanent 10 number. Sorry, PAN number of 10 digits. It is alphanumeric. It is alphanumeric. It is alphanumeric. It will contain alphabet as well as numerics. It will contain alphabet numbers as well as numerics. So the PAN number is a 10 alphanumeric character. Quoting of PAN number is mandatory in all documents pertaining to the following prescribed transaction. Is that in the respect of following transaction, the quoting of the permanent, the quoting of PAN number is mandatory. Means for the following point, the permanent account, the quoting of the permanent account number is mandatory. Means in the following cases, the permanent number is required to be mentioned. Number one, in all returns to or corresponded with the income tax authority. Means if there is any assessee, he has the permanent account number, and such assessee filing any return with the government, with the income tax department, then or income tax authority, then such person is mandatorily mention his permanent account number. Then such person is mandatorily mention the permanent account number. Number two, in any challan for the payment of any sum due under this act. Means if there is any payment which is made by the assessee, which is made by the assessee, and such payment is made by the challan, just like there is a payment of income tax or there is a payment of any TDS. So the payment of TDS is made by the challan. So on such challan, the mention of permanent account number is also mandatory. The mention of or the quoting of permanent account number is also mandatory. Is also mandatory in all documents pertaining to the transaction entered into by him as may be prescribed by the CBDT. Means if there is any person, he has entered into any transaction, the transaction which are specified by the CBDT, the transactions which are specified by the CBDT in the interest of the bank. In such a in such case, in such a case, the person will mention the PAN number. Means if there is a transaction in which the assessee is entered and such transactions are relating, or these transactions are those transactions which are notified by the CBDT, then the assessee he will mention his permanent account number. The assessee will mention his permanent account number. In this connection, the CBDT has notified the following transaction. For the purpose of this, the CBDT has notified the following transaction. And in the case of these following transactions, the permanent account number is required to be mentioned mandatorily. Means in the following cases, the mandatorily permanent account number is required to be mentioned. Number one, sale or purchase of motor vehicle or vehicle as defined in Motor Vehicle Act 1988, which require registration by the registering authority under the act other than two-wheeled vehicle. Means if there is any sale and the purchase of motor vehicle, there is the sale and the purchase of motor vehicle or the vehicles. There is the sale and the purchase of the motor vehicle. The motor vehicles which are defined under the Motor Vehicle Act 1988, which requires registration by the registering authority. Means such sale and purchase requires a registration by registering authority under this act other than two-wheeler vehicle. So in all these transaction, means in the case of sale and purchase of these vehicles, if there is any person entered into the sale and purchase of these vehicles, the permanent account number is mentioned mandatorily. The permanent account number is required to be mentioned mandatorily. Number two, opening of an account. Opening of any account, just like saving bank account. If there is any person, he wants to be open a saving bank account in any bank, in any banking company, in any cooperative society. If there is any person, he wants to open a bank, open an account with banking company, with any cooperative society, to which the Banking Regulation Act 1949 applicable, to which the provision of Banking Regulation Act 1949 applicable. Then in the respect of these transactions, the permanent account number is required to be mandatory. It is required to be mandatory. Means mentioned if there is any person who wants to open a account with a cooperative bank, with banking company, then the quoting of permanent account number is mandatory. Number two, making an application to any banking company or to a cooperative society to which the Banking Regulation Act 1949 applicable, or to another company or the institution for the issue of debit and credit card. Means if there is any person, he make an application. If there is any assessee and such assessee makes an application for issuance of the debit card and the credit card, and such application is made to the any banking company, any cooperative society, then the mention of PAN number is mandatory. The mentioning of PAN number is mandatory. The mentioning of PAN number is mandatory. For the example, Mr. Ram. For the example, Mr. Ram, he makes an application for debit card. Mr. Ram make an application for debit card to a bank, just like PNB Bank. Then he will mention, when he will make the application for the debit card, he will mention his permanent account number. He will mention his permanent account number. Number 4, opening a demat account. If there is any person who wants to be open a demat account, he wants to be open a demat account, and the demat account open with a depository, with a participant, custodian of security, or by any other registered, the by another person who is registered under section 10 and section 12 subsection 1a of SEBI Act 1972. If there is any person and such person open a demat account, and such demat account is open with the depository, with the participant and with the custodian of the securities, or by the any other person who is registered under section 12 subsection 1a of the SEBI Act, then the person is required to mention PAN number. Then the person is required to mention PAN. Payment of hotel or restaurant against the bill at any time, and the payment is 50,000 rupees in cash, then the permanent number is required to be mentioned. Means if there is any person, he is making the payment to any hotel, to any restaurant, and the payment is more than, and the payment is 50,000 rupees, and means there is a payment is 50,000 rupees or more than, means there is a payment in cash of an amount which is more than 50,000 rupees, then the PAN is required to be mandatory. Mention mandatory. If there is any payment in cash and it is more than 50,000 rupees, and the payment is made in a connection with travel to any foreign country, or payment for the purchase of any foreign currency at any time, means if there is any SSC, he has made the payment in a connection with travel to any foreign country, or payment for the purchase of any foreign country currency at any time, and the payment is more than, 50,000 rupees in cash, then the PAN is required to be mandatory. If there is the payment of mutual funds for the purchase of these units, means there is an SSC, he wants to purchase the unit of mutual fund, and such payment is more than 50,000. The payment for purchase the unit is more than 50,000. Then the PAN is required to be mandatory. PAN mention mandatory. If there is any payment to a company or any institution for acquiring bonds or debenture which is issued by it, means if there is any SIC, he is making the payment to any company or to any institution for acquiring the bonds, for acquiring the debentures, the bonds and debenture which is issued by such organization, and such payment is more than 50,000, and such payment is more than 50,000 rupees, then the PAN is mandatory. Then the PAN is mandatory. Next, payment to Reserve Bank of India for acquiring the bond which is issued by RBI. Means if there is any RBI, if the RBI issue the bonds, and there is any SSC wants to purchase these bonds, and further in the respect of this, the SSC make the payment to RBI. So the payment which is made to RBI, if it is more than 50,000, then the PAN is mandatory. Then mentioning the PAN is mandatory. Number 10, deposit with the banking company or deposit with the cooperative society, cooperative bank, to which the Banking Regulation Act 1949 applicable. Means if there is any SSC, make the deposit or want to make the deposit with the any bank or any cooperative bank to which the Banking Regulation Act 1949 applicable, to which the Banking Regulation Act 1949 applicable, or make the deposit to any post office, and the deposit in cash and it is more than 50,000 during a day, then the PAN is mandatory. For the example, Mr. Sohan, he made the deposit of 55,000, and such payment is in cash to post office. Then in this situation, the payment is more than 50,000, then the PAN is required to be mandatory. The mentioning of PAN is mandatory. When there is any person purchase a bank draft or pay order or banker's check from the banking company or from a cooperative bank to which the Banking Regulation Act 1949 applicable. Means if there is any person he has purchased a bank draft or pay order or banker's check or banker's check from a banking company. He purchased these checks, these orders from a banking company or from a cooperative bank or from a cooperative bank on which the provision of Banking Regulation Act 1949 applicable. And if the payment is made by the such person in cash and it is more than 50,000 rupees in a day, then mentioning of PAN is mandatory. Then the person is required to mention his PAN if it is more than 50,000 rupees in cash. A time deposit with when there is any person make that time deposit with a banking company or with a cooperative bank or with a cooperative bank on which the provision of Banking Regulation Act 1949 applicable or a post office or a nidhi company which is referred in section 406 of the Companies Act 2013. When there is any time deposit is made with Nidhi company, the Nidhi company which is referred in section 206 of Companies Act. A non-banking financial company which hold a certificate of registration. There is a non-banking financial company and such a non-banking financial company hold a certificate of registration under section 45 IA of Reserve Bank of India Act or hold or accept deposit from public, then such a non-banking financial company which holds a certificate can accept the time deposit from the person, can accept the time deposit from the public. And if such a person make that time deposit with any of them, then the amount which is exceeding 50,000 rupees, then the if that time deposit amount is more than 50,000 or aggregate is more than 5 lakh rupees during the financial year, if the time deposit amount is more than 50,000 or aggregate is more than 5 lakh rupees, then the and 5 lakh in a financial year, then the mandatory means the PAN is required to be mandatory mentioned, means the PAN is mandatorily mentioned by such assessee if the time deposit is more than 50,000 or in aggregate in the financial year is more than 5 lakh rupees. It is more than 5 lakh rupees. Then the mandatory means the mentioning of PAN is mandatory. The PAN is required to be mentioned mandatorily. Number 30, payment for one or more prepaid payment instrument such as defined in the policy guidelines for the issuance and the operation of prepaid payment instrument which is issued by the payment which are issued by RBI under the payment and settlement system Act 2007 to the banking company or to the cooperative bank to which the Banking Regulation Act 1949 applies or to another company or institution means there is any payment for one or more prepaid payment instrument. There is a payment of one or more prepaid payment instrument as defined in the policy guideline for the issuance or the operation of prepaid payment instrument which is issued by Reserve Bank of India under the Payment and Settlement System Act 2007 to any banking company or to any cooperative society to which the Banking Regulation Act 1949 applicable or to another company or another institute if the payment is more than 50,000 rupees, whether it is made by check, by cash, by any way, and if it is more than 50,000, then the PAN is required to be mandatory. Means mentioning of the PAN is mandatory if the payment is more than 50,000 and by any way, not say it is in cash, by any way. There, if the payment is more than 50,000 rupees, then the mentioning of PAN is mandatory. The mentioning of PAN is mandatory. Next, payment in life insurance premium to the insurer. as defined in the Insurance Act 1938, means if there is any of payment which is made by the person to the insurer, and by the way of life insurance premium, and the payment is more than 50,000 rupees, and the payment is more than 50,000 rupees, then the pen is required to be mandatory. The pen mentioning is mandatory. Number two, number 15, a contract for the sale or purchase of security. When there is any contract for sale and the purchase of security as defined in section 2H of the Security Contract Act 1956, means there is the contract for the sale and the purchase of security. There is the contract for the sale and the purchase of security, which is defined in Security Contract Act 1956. Then the amount, then the if the contract, if the amount of the contract is more than rupees 1 lakh rupees per transaction. If the amount more than 1 lakh rupees, then mentioning of PAN is mandatory. Sale or the purchase by any person of the share of the company. The shares which are not listed in recognized stock exchange, means there is a sale and purchase of unlisted share, and the value is more than, and the transaction value is more than 1 lakh, then the PAN is mandatory. Sale and purchase of any immovable property. If there is any sale and the purchase of immovable property and the value is more than 10 lakh rupees, or valued by the stamp valuation authority referred in section 50C, is maximum 10 lakh rupees. Means if there is any sale and purchase of immovable property and the value of the immovable property is 10 lakh rupees, the value of the immovable property is 10 lakh rupees, then the pen is mentioned. The pen is required to be mentioned. 80. Sale or purchase by any person of goods or services of any nature other than those which is specified in in point 1 to 70 of this table. If any, means if there is any sale and purchase, and the sale and purchase is made by any person, and the sale and purchase of goods and services, then the payment, if the payment is more, sorry, if the transaction is more than 2 lakh rupees, means the amount which is involved in such transaction is more than 2 lakh rupees, it is more than 2 lakh rupees, then the PAN is required to be mentioned mandatorily. If the amount of the transaction is more than 2 lakh, if it is more than 2 lakh, in the case of sale and purchase of goods and services, if it is more than 2 lakh rupees. So, point 1 to point 7, point 18, in all these cases, the assessee, the person is required to mention his PAN. The assessee is required to mention his permanent account number mandatory. However, a person is required to quote general index registration number till such time PAN is allotted to him, means the person, he will mention or he will quote general index registration number till the date of or till the time of PAN is allotted to him. PAN is allotted to him means he has made an application. He has made an application for the PAN. Till the receipt of such PAN, he will mention or he will quote general index registration number in the place of PAN. Minor to quote parent or parent and guardians, means if there is any person, he is a minor. If there is any person, he is a minor, and he does not have any income which will be chargeable under the head of income tax, under the Income Tax Act. Means if there is any person and such person entered into a transaction, there is a person, he is a minor, his age is less than 18 years. There is a person, his age is less than 18 years, and such person entered into a transaction, entered into the transaction which is referred in any of point, means point, just like point 1 to point 70, point 18, means for the example, there is a person and such person wants to open a bank account, wants to open a bank account in a bank. For the example, there is a Mr. Rahul, and his age is only 16 years, and he wants to open a bank account in a bank. He is less than 18 years, means he is a minor. But to open a bank account in any banking company or any cooperative bank, the PAN is mandatory. So in this case, he will mention the PAN number of his guardian, of his parent, is that where the person entering into any transaction, the transaction which is referred in this rule is a minor, if such person is a minor and such person does not have any income which is chargeable to tax, he shall quote the PAN of his father, of his mother, or his guardian, as the case may be, in the document pertaining to the said transaction. Means if he wants to open a bank account in any of the bank, and there is a require, and he does not have PAN because he is a minor, or he does not have any income which will be taxable under the income tax, then he will quote the PAN, of his parent, mother or father, or his guardian. Declaration by the person not having PAN. If there is any person entered into a transaction which is mentioned in this rule, if there is any person, he have entered into annual transaction, and such a person does not have any PAN, and such person does not have permanent account number, then such person shall make an declaration in form number 60, giving therein the particulars of such transaction either in the paper form or electronic, under the electronic verification code in the accordance with the procedure. Means he will make a declaration, and such declaration shall be made in the form 60. Such a declaration shall be made in the form 60, giving therein the particulars of such a transaction. Means he will provide the information about such a transaction either in the paper form, or either in the electronic form, under the electronic verification code in the accordance with the procedure. The structure or standard which is specified by the Principal Director General of Income Tax or the Director General of Income Tax. Means he will mention a declaration about the not having PAN. Means if there is any assessee does not have PAN number and he has entered into any of these transactions which are defined in the rule, or which are explained in above, then such person he will make a declaration about a declaration, and he will declare that he does not have the PAN. Non-applicability of Rule 114B. Non-applicability of Rule 114B means the provision of this rule shall not be applied to the following class or the classes of the person named. Means such a rule, the rule of 114B. The rule 114B shall not be applicable to the following class or the classes of the person. Shall not be applicable to the following class or the classes of the person. Number one, it shall not be applicable to the central government, state government, or the consular officer. The provision of section 114B will not be applicable to the central government, to the state government, and to the officer of consular. Number two, the section 114B will not be applicable. It will not be applicable to the non-resident. The non-resident who are referred in section 2 subsection 30. In the respect of transaction, the transaction which are made other than a transaction which is referred to at 1 to 2, 1 or 2 or 4 or 7, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 15, 17 of the table. Means such a provision, means such a rule will not be applicable to the non-resident person. The non-resident person who are defined in section 2 subsection 30 in the respect of any transaction, other than a transaction, which is referred to in serial number 1, 2, 4, 7, 8, 10, 12, 15, 16, 17 of that table. And so the provision of rule 114B will not be applicable on these following persons. Now we will discuss the meaning of certain phases, meaning of certain points. Number one, payment in the connection with travel. What is the meaning of payment in the connection with travel? So the payment, when there is any SIC, make the payment towards the fare. When there is any payment which is made by the assessee to the travel agent, or to the tour operator, or to the authorized person, in the respect of fare, means there is a payment of fare. There is a payment of fare, and such payment of fare is made by the assessee to the any travel agent, to any tour operator, or to a authorized person, the person who are defined in section 2 subsection C, section 2 subsection C of the Foreign Exchange Management Act 1999, means the payment which is made towards the fare and the payment is made to the travel agent or tour operator or to the authorized person, the person who are defined in section 2 subsection in section 2 subsection C of the Foreign Exchange Management Act 1999. What is the meaning of travel agent or the tour agent? What is the meaning of travel agent? So the travel agent and a tour agent means the person who makes the arrangement for the air, surface or maritime travel, and who provide services which are related to the accommodation. The person who makes the transaction, who makes the arrangement, the person who makes the arrangement for the air, the person who makes the arrangement for the air, surface or maritime travel, or provide service, or who provide the services which are relating to the accommodation, which are relating to the tours, which are relating to the entertainment, passport, visa, foreign exchange, travel related insurance, or other travel related services, either separately or in the package, then such person will be known as travel agent or tour agent. Tour operator means, for example, there is a person and he is arranging the a proper tour, means in the respect of these tour all the services are provided by such a person, then such a person shall be known as tour operator or the travel agent. Time deposit. What is the meaning of time deposit? The time deposit means the deposit which will be repayable on the expiry of fixed time, means the deposit which is repayable after the expiry of fixed time. The amount, the deposit which is a repayable after the expiry of fixed period, after the expiry of fixed period, then it will be known as time deposit, then it will be known as time deposit. If there is any change in the address or in the name and the nature of the business of the person on the basis of PAN was allotted to him, then he should intimate the change to the assessing officer. Means the PAN is taken by the assessee. But after that, there is a change in the address. There is a change in the address of the assessee, and there is the change in the nature of the business nature of the business, then and there is any change in the basic details, then these changes are required to be mentioned. These changes are required to be mentioned by the assessee to the AO. About such change means the assessee he will make a intimation. He will provide the intimation to the person, to the AO about these changes, whether these changes are related to basic information of the assessee, nature of the business of the assessee, address of the assessee, or any of change. Means if there is any change which is relating to the assessee and which is mentioned in the PAN, then such a change is required to be intimated by such a person to the A. Every person who received any document which is relating to the any person who has received any document which is relating to the any transaction created above shall ensure that the PAN and the general index registry number or the Aadhaar number is duly quoted in the document. Means every person who receives any document which is related to such transaction, means if there is any person he is receiving these document and the document which are relating to the above transaction, then he will ensure that then such person will be ensured that the PAN number or general index number or the Aadhaar number is properly quoted on such document or no. He will take the surety about such mentioning of PAN. Intimation of PAN to person deducting or collecting the TDS means if there is any person who is if the person receive any amount from which tax has been deducted means if there is any person, he is receiving the amount of salary, and the employer will deduct the amount of TDS on such salary. Then the person, he will intimate his PAN number to his employer. For the example, Mr. Mohan, he is working in an organization ABC Limited, and he earn 50,000 rupees per month as salary. And ABC Limited deduct TDS on it. Then Mr. Mohan will intimate his PAN number to ABC Limited. Mr. Mohan, he will intimate his permanent account number to the entity, or to the person who is required to deduct the TDS. So, every person who receive any amount, from which tax has been deducted at source, then it shall intimate, or such assessee, such person, he will intimate his PAN number to the person who are required to deduct TDS, the person who is required to deduct the TDS. Similarly, every buyer or the licensee or the lease, which is referred to in section 206C, they shall intimate their PAN number to the responsible person for collecting the TCS. Means every buyer, every licensee, every lessee who is referred in section 206, they shall intimate their PAN. To the person who is responsible for collecting the TCS. Quoting of PAN in the certain document. Quoting of PAN means when there is any person who has been paid the amount after collecting the TDS. Means there is a person, he is collecting the amount of TDS, and after the collecting the TDS, he is making the payment to the such person. The person deducting tax shall quote the PAN of the person to whom the amount was paid in the following document. Means there are the following documents on which the quoting of the PAN is mandatory. Number one, in the statement which is furnished under section 192 subsection 2C. Means when there is no TDS which is deducted on the salary, when there is no TDS which is deducted by the employer on the salary of the employee, then in this case a statement which is furnished under section 192 subsection 2C, giving particulars of the purchases or the profit in the lieu of salary which is provided by any employee, provided to any employee, then the quoting of the PAN is mandatory. In all certificate of TDS which is issued by the person to whom payment is made. Means all the certificate which are related to the TDS payment, the PAN is mandatory quoting. In all return which is prepared and delivered or caused to be delivered through any income tax authority in the accordance with the provision of section 206. Means in all returns, the return which are delivered, which are prepared, or which are caused to be delivered to any income tax authority in the accordance with the provision of section 206, and in all statement which is prepared and delivered or caused to be prepared and delivered in the accordance with the provision of section 200 subsection 3, there the PAN is required to be explained mandatorily. So every person who is collecting the tax in the accordance with the provision of section 206, if there is any person who is collecting the amount of tax TCS, then he shall put PAN of every buyer or licensee or the lessee in the following document. Means if there is any person who is collecting the amount of tax, means the person is collecting TCS. According to the provision of section 206, there such person, he shall mention the PAN number of each buyer or each lessee or each licensee in the following document. Number one, all the certificates which are relating to the collection of TDS, which is relating to the collection of TCS in the accordance with the provision of 206 subsection 206C subsection 5 means if such a person issue TCS collection document that the TCS is collected, then on such document the PAN number is mandatory. In all returns which are prepared, the number PAN number is required to be mentioned in all returns. The returns which are prepared or delivered or caused to be delivered to any income tax authority in the accordance with the provision of section 206C subsection 5A and 5B means all the returns which are prepared or delivered, all the returns which are prepared and delivered or caused to be prepared or delivered to the income tax authority in the accordance with the provision of section 206 5A and 5B. On these all these written on all these written the PAN number is required to be mentioned in all the statement which are prepared, which are delivered or caused to be prepared, caused to be delivered according to the provision of section 206C subsection 3. Then on all these documents, the PAN is required to be, the PAN number is required to be mentioned. The PAN number is required to be mentioned. All these section 206C, 206C subsection 5A and 5B, we will discuss in our another different classes means these will be discussed according to the particular points according to particular chapters. So in this case, in the case when there is an assessee and that assessee is delivering or caused to be delivering these documents or these statement in the accordance with the provision of section 206 C subsection 3, then on these documents, on these statements, the PAN is mandatory. PAN is required to be mentioned. Requirement to intimate PAN or quote PAN not to apply certain percent means in the subsection 5A and 5C shall not apply to the person who does not have taxable income in India. Means if there is any person who does not have taxable amount, taxable income, which will be taxable in India, or who is not required to obtain PAN. Means subsection 5A and 5B. Subsection 5A and 5B means just like this one. These are the all details. Means subsection this 206C 5A and 5B. It will not be applicable to the person who does not have any income, the income which will be taxable in India, or who is not required to obtain PAN if such person furnish the declaration. If the person who does not have taxable income in India or who are not required to obtain PAN, if these person furnish the declaration, if these person furnish the declaration under section 197A in the prescribed form, if they furnish the declaration under section 197A in the prescribed form and in the prescribed manner, then the tax on his estimated income tax or total liability for such period will be nil. Means the above subsection 5A and 5B shall not be applied to the person who does not have any income which will be taxable in India or who are not required to obtain PAN. If they furnish the declaration under section 197A in the prescribed manner, in the prescribed form within the time limit, then the tax on the estimated tax total income will be zero. It will be zero. Interchangeability of PAN with the Aadhaar number means every person, the person who is required to mention his PAN, if there is any person he is required to furnish, mention, intimate or quote his PAN, quote his permanent account number, then such person may furnish, intimate or quote his Aadhaar number in the place of PAN. Means if there is a person, he is required to mention his permanent account number on such particular document, but such person does not have permanent account number, then on the place of permanent account number he can mention the Aadhaar. If he has not been allotted a PAN but passes the Aadhaar number, means when he does not have PAN number but he has the Aadhaar number, so he can mention the Aadhaar number. He has been allotted a PAN and has intimated his Aadhaar number to prescribe authority in the accordance with requirement which is contained in section 139 AA subsection 2. Then the PAN would be allotted in the prescribed manner to the person who has not been allotted a PAN but processes Aadhaar number. Means if there is a person, he has Aadhaar number but he does not have permanent account number, then in the place of PAN number he can mention, he can intimate, he can furnish his Aadhaar number. Accordingly, the CBDT has, by the notification number 59 2019 dated 30 August 2019, provide that any person who have not allotted a PAN, if there is any person who does not have a PAN number but has the Aadhaar number and has furnished on intimate or court his Aadhaar number in the place of PAN number, then it shall be deemed to have applied for the allotment of PAN, and he shall not be required to apply or submit any document. Means according to the CBDT, according to a notification which is issued by the CBDT, if there is any person who does not have PAN, who does not have allotted PAN number, but he has Aadhaar number, and he has intimated court or furnished his Aadhaar number in the place of PAN, then it shall be deemed to have applied for allotment of PAN, and he shall not be required to apply or submit any document. Further, any person who has not allotted a PAN, further, if there is any person who has not a PAN but he has a permanent account number, then such person may apply for the allotment of PAN under section 139 subsection 139A subsection 1A 1A and 3. Means if there is any person, he does not have permanent account number but have Aadhaar number, then such person can make an application for the allotment of PAN under section 139A, subsection 1, subsection 1A and subsection 3 by intimating his Aadhaar number, and he shall not require to apply or any other document. Means he can make an application for allotment of PAN if he has Aadhaar. Quoting and authorizing of PAN or Aadhaar number is that if there is any person, he has entered into a transaction. If there is any person and such person entered into a transaction, and in the case of such transaction, there is a requirement to mention to quote PAN number or Aadhaar number. If there is any person, he has entered into a transaction, and in such a transaction, there are some document, and on such document, it is mandatory to mention to quote PAN number or Aadhaar number in such document, and it is also require authentication such PAN or Aadhaar number in the prescribed manner. Means every person who is entering into a prescribed transaction in which is required to quote PAN number or to Aadhaar number, as the case may be, in the document which is relating to such a transaction, and it is also required the authentication such PAN or Aadhaar in the prescribed manner. And every person who is receiving such document which is relating to the transaction which is referred to in and has to ensure that PAN or the Aadhaar number has been duly quoted in such document, and also ensure that such PAN number or the Aadhaar number is properly authenticated. Such PAN number and such Aadhaar number is properly authenticated. It should be properly authenticated. Power to make the rule. The CBDT, or where the CBDT has the power, the CBDT is empowered to make the rules with regard to the following. The CBDT has the power to make the rules in the respect of following. Number one, the form and the manner in which the application for the PAN is required to be made. Means the CBDT has the power to make the rules in the respect of form and the manner in which form or in which manner the application for allotment or for the application for the allotment of PAN is required to be made, and particulars which are required to be given in such application. Number two, the category of the transaction in the relation to such PAN. The CBDT has the power to make the rules in the respect of category, in the respect of category of transaction, in the respect of which PAN or general index registration number or the Aadhaar number, as the case may be, is required to be quoted on the related document. Means the CBDT can explain the category of transaction in the respect of which PAN or the general index registration number or the Aadhaar number, as the case may be, is required to be quoted. Number three, the category of the document which are relating to the business or profession in which PAN or the general index registration number, register number or Aadhaar number, as the case may be, shall be quoted by every person. Shall be quoted by every person means the CBDT. The CBDT can make the rule in the respect of category of the document. The category of the document which are relating to the business or the profession in which PAN or general index register number or the Aadhaar number is required to be quoted by the person. Is required to be quoted by the person. Number four, the class or the classes of the person to whom the provision of this act shall not be applied. The CBDT can make the application, make the provision or make the rules where make the rules on which the provision of this section will not be applied. Means the provision of this section will not be applied on such person, and the CBDT can make the rules in the respect of form and the manner in which the person who has not allotted a PAN or the general index registration number shall make an application, make a declaration. Then the CBDT can make the rules in the respect of such point also. How to make the declaration, the manner in which PAN number or general index registration number or the Aadhaar number, as the case may be, is required to be mentioned or required to be quoted on the transaction number. Means in which manner you will mention, you will intimate, or you will quote the PAN number. Next G point, the time and the manner in which such transaction carried in, the time and the manner in which such a transaction carried in, and carried in point B above shall be intimated to the prescribed authority. Means if there is any transaction, just like this transaction point B, the category of transaction in the respect of which the PAN number is required to be quoted. So the time and the manner in the respect of these transactions, and it shall be intimated to the prescribed authority. These the time means the CBDT can make the rule in the respect of time and the manner in the respect of transaction which are referred in point B. Means when you will intimate to the prescribed authority, in which manner you will intimate to the prescribed authority. The CBDT can make the rules. Now we will discuss the meaning of certain terms, just like Aadhaar number. What is the meaning of Aadhaar number? What is the meaning of Aadhaar number? The Aadhaar number is an identification number. The Aadhaar number is a identification number which is issued. The Aadhaar number is a identification number which is issued to an individual by the authority to receive the demographic information and biometric information after verifying all the information by the authority. Means the Aadhaar number is a number which is issued by the authority to the individual on receipt of biographic information and the biometric information about such assets. It is also includes virtual identity which is generated by the authority in the prescribed manner. It includes any alternative virtual identity. It is include any alternative virtual identity which is generated by the authority in the prescribed manner. Authentication. What is the meaning of authentication? The authentication means the process by which the PAN or Aadhaar along with demographic information or the biometric information of an individual is submitted to the income tax. Authentication means the process by which the PAN or the Aadhaar number along with the demographic information or biometric information of an individual is submitted to the income tax authority. to the income tax authority, means on the basis of which we have submitting the information to the income tax authority or to any prescribed authority or to any agency for its verification, for the purpose of verification of such authority or agency. Verify the correctness or the lack thereof on the basis of information which are available. On the basis of the information which are available with it. General index. What is the meaning of general index registration number? What is the meaning of general index registration number? A number which is given by the AO. General index registration number is a number which is given by the AO to the assessee in the general index register, the register which is mentioned by him and which is containing the designation and particulars of the part or the circle or the range of the AO. Means the general index registration number is a number which is given by the assessing officer to the assessee and it is in the general index registration. It is mentioned in the general index register, the register which is mentioned by the AO. It is also contain such a register means the number which is given by the AO to the assessing in the general index register. The register which is maintained, it is developed by the AO and it will contain the designation and the particulars of such particular word or circle or range of the AO. So on the basis of this, we have discussed section 139A. Section 139A of the Income Tax Act, which contain the information about the PAN number, PAN of assessee. In this class, we have discussed some important and the relevant provision which are related to PAN, when the PAN is required to be quoted, when the PAN is required to be mentioned, and all other relevant information which are relating to PAN. So thank you so much for watching this video. Okay, bye bye and have a nice day.